Sounds like NFTs. Yo, whoa, that's weird. Who's into crypto and NFTs? What a weirdo, dude. But no, seriously, that is how I got into it. And a lot of those guys, they run spaces, and so they'll do like daily updates, like, hey, there's this project coming out. Hey, there's this stupid scam coin you shouldn't buy. Hey, there's just a giant group of us just sharing our takes. Oh, we've invited real professionals and financial people to come and share their knowledge with the community. And I looked at that and I thought,
hello, welcome back to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion. Oh.
I'm all Yeah. Sorry, cotton ball. I'm old man Raptor, and our guest is.
hey, it's Twortles. What's up?
Hey. Thank you very much for joining us, Twortles. That's an actual pleasure to have you here. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate it.
You guys. This is
Oh.
awesome.
Oh. So I'll start with this signature question I ask everybody. What does he do here in this virtual landscape?
Ooh. Hang out with all of my internet friends and make cool content that makes you think but is also entertaining.
Oh. So how did you get started with all that? And would you mind elaborating a little bit on what you mean by makes you think and entertaining?
Yeah, man. So, oh man, where should I start? Should I start with how I got into VRchat or the type of content that I do? What do you think would be a good way to approach this?
Start from the beginning. We have all the time in the world. We'd like to hear your whole story.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Hold on, I need to figure out the setting real quick. Okay, I'm good. All right, so I got into VRchat around. Well, my first impression of VRchat was the Uganda Knuckles meme. I think that's where a lot of people started to get to know VRchat. But then I didn't really spend a lot of time on the platform. I had spent some time in VRchat a little bit before the meme popped off. So I still remember the big lobby and the rows of avatars that you can kind of walk through and pick what you want. And it was kind of one of my first surreal social VR moments. I wasn't in VR, but it did remind me heavily of a lot of the different MMORPGs that I used to play when I was younger. So there was that. And so I got into VRchat again after the pandemic. So that was around 2021, or I'd say the end of 2020. I had a friend of mine, his name's Skippy, and he had convinced me and a couple of our other friends to get an Oculus Quest 2, because that's when the headset was released. And so, like a lot of people during this second VR wave, I would say, I was one of those people. And so I had spent some time with him and some of our other IRL friends, but like a lot of other people that I've talked to, their friends kind of fell out of the game because they had some other stuff that they wanted to do and just other games to play. But for me, I actually really, really liked the social aspect of VRchat. And prior to VRchat, I was already doing professional photography with some clients, couple videos here and there. I was already editing videos, and I took one look at this place, and I thought to myself, whoa, I can really express myself as creatively as I want while maintaining a certain line of anonymity. And that was what was important to me. And I think for a lot of people, especially like VTubers now, they don't want their real identities being put out there. So that was kind of my first baby steps into VRchat. And of course, I was a half body, and I would just hang around the Great Pug. I'd hang around, and from that point, I would say, even though my friends, my IRL friends, fell out of the game, I thought to myself, wow, there's a lot of other stuff that I could do. So, from that point, I was pretty inspired by some of the other current content creators. So you have your friends like Surmer, Azeel. There was Fia from the virtual reality show, Thrill from Thrill Seeker. Sadly, it's Bradley, and all these other VR content creators. And I thought to myself, well, if they can do it, how come I can't? And so that's how I really started with just a really bare bones street interview basics. And my very first video on my channel is titled, "Have You Ever Been Bullied?" And it was just me going around the Great Pug and asking a bunch of people, "Have you ever been bullied growing up? Like, what was that like?" And that was just the catalyst. That was the start.
Wow. So why do you continue doing content then up to this point from your start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't care about the numbers to a certain extent. I think having a certain number of viewership go up, followers, I think for anybody in that position, it feels awesome, right? Because you're getting some form of social recognition. And that's definitely what I was getting. So there's that part of me that's like, yeah, number go up, that's awesome, that's sick. But there's also another part of me, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently too, is the type of content that I'm putting out as well as the level of quality. Because I'm thinking to myself, whenever I put out a video project, just in YouTube specifically, whenever I'm putting out a video for people to watch, I inherently think to myself, the people who are watching this are not just the people who found my channel and they like my content, but my friends, my network, the people that I've interviewed with on the streets of VRchat. And a lot of these people are just really interested in what social VR can do. And looking at the current landscape of VR content or VRchat content, I thought to myself, why can't I make entertaining and maybe thoughtful content while elevating the quality of videography that goes into these projects? So with a lot of my camera people, right? I have friends like Enemy Eliminated from Metacosm, amazing videographer, amazing editor, amazing director. I have my friend Mojo Peg. He's been super awesome helping me out with filming videos. And he's also just been there just to ask me questions and kind of just, he's been around VRchat for longer than I have. So whenever I bring up an idea and he goes, "Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, Twortles." I take his consideration. So yeah, so why do I continue to create content? Well, I just like the idea of putting out high quality videos, and again, entertaining and thought provoking, and hopefully a little educational at some points for people who've never been inside of VR.
Okay. So in the length of time you've been doing videos and creating content, what kinds of things have you learned yourself then, if you're looking to make them educational?
Oh yeah, dude. There's so much that I learned. I don't even know where to start. So, I mean, I got into VR chat like a lot of people, and my first experience was in the Black Hat. And of course, when you have children screaming at you, you think to yourself, there's no way that this can be it, right?
Mm.
And so that's kind of where I started with my journey. And by doing a lot of different street interviews, for me personally, I learned how powerful of a tool that virtual reality can be.
Mm.
So one of the, I guess, more popular videos that I made in my channel is about the VRchat rave scene, which is huge, as I'm sure you know as well, because you've interviewed tons of DJs, VJs, just people running these clubs and organizations. And being an avid raver in real life myself, I love going to festivals and going to concerts. Why would anyone go inside of a VR rave when they could just go to a real one? Duh, right? But then there were a lot of interesting things that came up, such as one, well, you're not constantly shoulder to shoulder bumping into people. You're not going to get sick at these events. Some of the women that I've talked to, they've mentioned, oh, there's, no guy who's trying to grab my ass. And I'm like, oh, so safety is also a really big concern. But then there's also accessibility, and not just in VR raves as well, but also there's a huge community of people with disabilities, right? And so they use VR to hang out and socialize with people because they just can't go outside. Because if they go outside, they're going to become immunocompromised and get even more sick. So just I guess one of the big things that I've learned in VRchat is, wow, the world is a lot bigger than I thought, and there's a lot of different groups of people. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. At first, before VRchat, I thought to myself, yeah, I don't know about furries, dude. They're kind of weird. Right? Then I started playing VRchat and then really spending
I
time
don't
in
see
it.
any. What are you talking about, furries? I don't see any furries here. Where the hell you see goddamn? Hey, Billy! Let the dog out! Okay, we'll talk to you later. Yeah, okay, no problem. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. So, I mean, so furries, that's a really interesting subgroup of a sub-community that I've really found. I don't even know if I can call them a sub-community. They just are the community in VRchat. And, playing this game longer, there's a funny joke someone told me. They said, if you got rid of all the furries, you're reducing the global IT workforce by 50%, and half of GitHub would be down because everything was coded and created by a furry. And I thought to myself, wow, when you put it like that, there is some sort of truth, because it's the furries and the Japanese that are creating some of the coolest, dopest technology or surrounding this industry. So, yeah, those are just some of the things that I've learned in terms of just the types of communities and how big this world and social platform can be. But there's a couple of other things I learned, but that's definitely one of the bigger ones.
Okay. So, I want to dig into those subjects a little bit, the ones two you mentioned. What were some of your first steps in the rave scene like, since you're an avid raver, and why do you keep on doing raving?
Oh, yeah. So, well, the very first time I went to a rave, it was with a group of college friends. This was in real life. And I went there and I went, wow, this is really awesome. I get to listen to music that I really enjoy. And not just that, I get to listen to music while hanging out with a bunch of my friends, which honestly, I think is the most important part. Because if you're not really raving or partying with your friends, I mean, you can rave by yourself, but for me personally, I really do enjoy it more when I'm with a group of people that I like spending time with, right? So, but even way, way, way before that, before college, I was already really into EDM. I was really into hardstyle. I'm Korean, so I was into K-pop and a lot of these music genres that just weren't really popular until I'd say maybe mid 2010s, around there. And so for me growing up, people would look at me and be like, why are you listening to music in a language that you don't understand? Well, first off, dude, I'm Korean, so I do understand what they're saying. Second of all, in terms of EDM, right? I just liked electronic music. I don't know how to explain it. Some of my friends like country. I don't like country, and it's just what it is, right? So when I went to my first rave in college, I thought to myself, yep, this was exactly what I thought it'd be. And VRchat, when I learned that there was a rave scene, because some of my early friends explained and showed it to me, I thought to myself, whoa. So I can save money and rave at home and in the comfort of my own room. And I have my own personal bathroom. That's like the best part of it.
No long lines?
No long lines, no guy trying to like bump into you while you're at the urinal and you're like, dude, like come on. Like I know you're under the influence, but come on, it's a bathroom. Let's be respectful. So just things like that. So that's why I like to continue to rave, and I just like music, and I think VRchat has honestly expanded my music taste to be much more wider than I thought it would already be.
Oh. May I ask you how so?
Yeah. So there's a huge DMB community in VRchat. Huge DMB community. And I've jokingly said to my DMB friends, listen, man, we need less DMB and we need more music genres. And but it's thanks to them that I kind of become more open-minded to it, because before I would be like, nah, I'm not really into DMB, I'll skip this song. But now I'm listening to it, I go, oh, actually, I like this pattern. This is a really cool loop that they're doing. I like the way the DJs, and I think the DJs honestly are the tastemakers. They transition it to really cool songs. I've gotten more open to different types of EDM. One of my friends, Gray Steps, he was explaining to me this entire concept of what real dubstep was, like 140 dubstep. Twortles, it's dubstep 140, and he was explaining the history to me. And honestly, I kind of gotten a little bit more of a, how do I explain it? I kind of appreciate it more when you have such passionate people breaking down why their specific genre that they enjoy so much is so good. And so when I listen to it now, I listen to it with newfound curiosity, but also a deeper appreciation. So
Okay.
that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. So, what was your first rave you went to in VRchat? And yeah, I'll start with that. Yeah.
Wow, first rave I went
First
to
rave.
VRchat. Well, it was a venue called Hardbox, which is now managed by one of my friends, or helped managed by one of my friends named Merles, Merles, I think.
Yep, we talked to him.
And oh yeah, Merles is super cool.
Oh, he
But this
is.
was before Merles and I guess that staff took over the project. But this was before Fizzbones was a thing. This was when we still had Dynamic Bones.
Yep.
Right? Oh man, I still remember logging into that lobby, and I had went with some of my real life friends, and we were rocking it with our Quest 2s plugged into our PCs, and there was no such thing as optimization, even if you hid everyone, and it was just so laggy. It was crazy how laggy it was. I was 3 frames per second and just not having a good time, honestly.
Oh.
But even throughout that, I still really enjoyed the music that they were playing because, again, I grew up listening to hardstyle and it's hard box, so they were playing hardstyle. And I thought to myself, whoa, this is exactly what I'm looking for, actually. And I think that left a really deep, good impression to me because the person who had showed me Hardbox, I don't remember their name, but I had met them in one of those VRchat featured worlds, and they were doing some sort of event. I don't remember what event it was. And I was hanging out with my IRL friends, and someone walked up to us, and we were having a conversation. And they said, "Hey, do you want to check out this other party that my friends and I are going to?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" And then me and my friends went, and it was Hardbox. And I remember one of the very first DJs who I later became friends with. I don't even know if they know this, but it was actually Akiyama from Calibrate.
Oh.
Akiyama was one of the DJs playing at Hardbox, and I still remember that. But I was, not in this avatar, obviously, and I had not gotten to know the greater community. So it was kind of weird when I realized this was after I had made my rave videos, and I got to meet Akiyama formally, like actually talk to them for an interview and in person. And it wasn't until months later that I realized, wait a second. Akiyama was there for my very first VRchat rave. And now I'm making a video about VRchat raves, and they're featured in it. That's crazy. That is a crazy loop and thought that I had. But yeah, that's kind of how I fell into it.
Wow. So, digging into the next subject, I'll avoid your audience's favorite reference. You mentioned that you... I won't say it, I promise. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I may.
I don't know, man.
Oh.
Fibber.
Well, no.
Fibber. Quit lying. Damn it.
No, that's my name.
Oh, don't quit cutting corners. I know it's lying. You shit.
So you mentioned earlier you didn't have you had a different view of furries, and would you mind explaining how you learned to, I guess, meet and enjoy their company?
Yeah, so I think one of the most interesting parts about VRchat when I was getting into the game was how creative everyone's avatars were. And for me, I was a complete normie coming into this. In fact, my own community calls me a boomer. Like one of them was like, "Twortles, you're boomer maxing," and I'm like, okay, I'll take that, I guess. But in terms of like furries, I think there's like a bigger overarching point that's not just the furries, but Again, coming in as a complete normie, I would think to myself, why would anyone want to be an animal? If you're a dude, why would you wear a female avatar, right? Or why would you want to be like this tiny little creature when you're actually a 6'3" dude? That's so weird to me. I'm a dude, normie dude coming into VR chat, and look at me. Just look at this avatar. I'm a Korean dude in real life, and I'm another Asian dude in VR chat. I'm not creative. Right?
Mm.
But as I've gotten to do a lot of my YouTube stuff, and especially talking to people in the virtual reality realm, I've started to realize that everyone kind of has their own idea of how they express themselves, whether that's creatively or emotionally or even physically, right?
Mm.
So for me, I like going to the gym. I like lifting weights because I want to be nice, big, jacked, and swole, right?
Mm.
But that's how I choose to represent myself to a lot of other people. And to some people, they might look at that as, big muscles, gross.
Mm.
That's fine. I'll do me and you do you. And more on that, that's kind of the attitude that I've learned here in VR chat, and especially with the furries. I mean, at first you would hear on the news, mainstream media, yeah, they're strange, like they're weird, and you hear all the horror stories, but actually, that's just how they choose to express themselves. I mean, you both have really cool avatars, in my
Thank you.
opinion. I don't think I could rock
Nice.
the orange fur, right? Or handsome fur claws, paws like you. I learned what beans were, so that was a thing. So like bean paws like you guys, right?
Pause.
Paws, right?
Pause. Pause.
I do.
Right.
I do apologize. I have to give your audience a little bit of a fan service.
Yeah. No, I totally get you. I totally get you. But as I was doing a lot of these interviews, there was a statement that I made to myself that really stuck with me, which was, when I spend a lot of time in VR chat, because of the pseudo anonymity that a lot of people have, I don't judge people just purely based off of aesthetics or their avatars, but instead I get to know them and I get to become friends with them based off of the color of their soul. And I think that is much more deeply impactful when I think about it. And also just empathetic. I think VR chat has made me a little bit more empathetic in some ways. But yeah, so that's kind of the overarching point. And maybe you are a dude and you like to be a furry. Cool, man. But as long as you're a nice, respectful person to me, I will also be a nice, respectful person to you. And that's kind of the attitude that I carry with me. Not just in VR chat, but I've learned to take that with me even into the real world. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people have taken away from this game.
I do very much agree with you there on that being VR chat's personality of how they view people. And when I came into VR chat personally, I did not expect it to be so kind. I honestly expected it to be like Twitter or Facebook, or people are just, I guess, keyboard warriors acting like a bunch of idiots. And I completely was wrong when I came in here. So I very much agree with your statements there. And yeah.
But wouldn't you say that in order to find that community who weren't just keyboard mashing warriors or people who were toxic like the kids in VR chat, wouldn't you agree that it does take a little bit of time and effort to actually get ingrained into the platform and culture of things to find your own tribe?
Yeah. Well, over time, especially since I've been in VR chat and YouTube, I've learned you find in most platforms what you look for in it. If you spend time watching lots of videos, watching politics, going, I hate this person, I'm just going to binge watch everything, the platform will then see what you're watching and then go, this is what they like. Therefore, you will see only that content or that community or whatever you look for. And VR chat, I've learned, is very similar. The kind of people you find yourself with are the same people you look for, the same communities you look for in that sense. But when I came here, I I'm a person who doesn't use social media much. Once Metaverse Degen started, that changed. So my view of the whole thing was it's just all keyboard warriors when I came in here initially, because that's what I thought it all was, and I was wrong. And I agree with you, and I'm glad VRchat has that personality itself.
Yeah, I think it's just a really deeply impactful platform. But some of the things that I've worked on, including my videos on how to find VRchat raves, right?
Yep.
That's I created that video because there were a lot of really good resources, such as the video that Fia made or Straz Films. They both have really, really incredible videos, highlighting the scene and some of the clubs within it. I wanted to make a little bit more of a hopefully funny and impactful, but also educational quick video that people could send to their friends to get to know more about the scene. And so that's kind of some of the goals that I had because, again, like you mentioned, it does take a little bit of time to get into these tribes or groups that you really vibe with. Like you mentioned, you might be a political keyboard warrior, but you don't always have to be that way. And if you want to get out of that bubble, I mean, where do you look? Where do you search? You keep hearing about these VR raves, but where are the links? Where are the resources? And so that's kind of one of the goals of my channel, just in regards to some of the more educational pieces, like how to find VR raves and other things like that.
Okay. With some of your content like that, you're trying to help people find raves and other VR content. What are some of the points that you would say are the most useful to find that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so one of the most useful resources, honestly, was VRchat Party Hub, managed by the group over there, but specifically our very good friend, Captain Duck. If you know anything about VRchat raves, Captain Duck is the GOAT. I mean, he's a duck, but he's also the GOAT, right? He and some other people, I think, curate all of these events. Oh, I can't even forget Woody, VVOODY, I think.
Yep.
They made an awesome resource called VRC Timeline, vrc.tl, I think. And that's kind of a visual guide on all the different events that are going on in VRchat. And so that's kind of what I recommend. Check out those resources. Check out VRchat Party Hub, managed by that group over there, or vrc.tl. And I think with some of my content, just linking those resources that people have access to, because I don't know about you, but whenever I watch the tutorial video or a how-to, and they go the first 3 minutes of, "What's up, guys? Welcome to another tutorial," I fall asleep. I lose it, right? And then they don't link anything and you're left clueless. I didn't want to be that guy. So I include all the resources. And I think a lot of YouTubers do that too, but link the resources so people can just click the links, check it out. Oh, I joined this Discord server. Oh, I follow this Twitter account. And they have everything that they need. So just really compiling the information. I don't think I created anything new, but I think I just helped curate and compile all the information in one easy to find video for people. And I think that's what they appreciate.
Okay. So with tutorial videos, what kind of layout do you prefer as a content creator? Like, how do you set up your information in the content itself?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I try to do a mix of both entertainment as well as education, right? So within that, I'll use the Finding VRchat Raves video because I think it's the most relevant one for your audience. But in that video particularly, I start off with just really basics. Hey guys, this is a thing. And in my last video, which was a documentary, I wanted to show you guys, now that I spent more time in it, how you can actually access these resources. So, and then you have interviews with my friends like Mojapeg or Anks, right? And then you have Omega Soul, one of Calibrate's dancers, and then you also have Captain Duck, them just sharing their experiences so other people can kind of get a vibe of it. And then it kind of goes more into, why are these raves so cool? Why do people go to these? Okay, now that you know why people go to these raves, here are some resources that you can get access to if you found everything that you just listened to be helpful. Or you can just skip all that BS in the beginning and go straight to the part where there's all the links and resources, right? But on the other hand, I do have some tutorials that are just straight up 45 seconds. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is all you need. Okay, goodbye, right? Because some people, that's all they want. So it really depends on the context. So I think building that context, because you can't just explain the entire VRchat rave scene in 1 minute. I guess you could, but it'd be tough. I think it's better to just elaborate more on that and share that with other people.
Okay. So how long have you been doing those style videos as well? Man, I was just curious, and what got you into wanting to do that kind of content, tutorials and interviews?
Whoa. Hi, folks. You folks come and join us on our social and on our Discord. We love to see you there. We have a Patreon, and we have 2 people that have signed on, Training Fangs and Zero. And I hope we get to see you there, folks. We appreciate the time and effort that you make. And my ball's getting out of here because it needs new rubber. Bye.
Yeah, so in between most of my regular content, which is a lot of street interviews and yeah, honestly a lot of interviews and talking to people like yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, outside of that being my normal stuff, as I'm going through this, I'm starting to really understand the idea of documenting rather than just creating one perfect project and putting it out there.
Yeah.
So I'm documenting my journey through VRchat. I'm showing people, yeah, I checked out the great pug. Yeah, I checked out the black cat. Oh, is the black cat really worse after Christmas? And so I made a video on that, just documenting and talking to people, right? And then some people, they just naturally ask questions in the comments. Hey, what world is this? Hey, how do I get access? Hey, I want to rave in VR. Hey, I also want to DJ in VR. Where do I get started? And so honestly, just reading the comments just gives me a good idea of, oh, I have about 100 comments of people asking me what rave world this is. But they don't understand the idea that it's an actual event run by people, not just automated. Right? These are real people taking time out of their day to plan out these events. And so, again, building on top of that context, that kind of spawned the idea of how to find VRchat raves. And that's why I made that particular video. But that same concept or how I got to that point is, again, easily applied to a lot of other videos I've made.
Since you do that kind of videos, I'll ask you, is it easy to explain to people who don't know what VRchat is, what VRchat is? And what are some of the...
Ooh.
Yeah, sometimes when I try to do that myself, I feel like that, you know that meme where there's a dude, crazy frizzy hair, pointing at a map with a bunch of red lines? I feel like that guy when I try.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so the question is, how do I explain VRchat to people who've never heard of VRchat?
Yeah.
Okay. How do I cook this one up? All right. Because this is a very deep question, and it's definitely harder for people to explain this if they spent a lot of time in the platform because there's so much that you can cover. But the way that I will try to explain VRchat to, I guess, a normie like me 3-4 years ago would have been, VRchat is a virtual reality social media platform where you are allowed to adorn any type of avatar that you want with almost unrestricted creative freedom in regards to creating virtual 3D assets. That definitely won't work for a kindergartner, right? But I think if you were talking to just an adult, they'd be like, whoa, hold on, dissect that. So if I try to dissect that even more, it would be along the lines of, if I was really talking to a boomer, I would go, hey, so Facebook, right? Imagine Facebook, but not on a screen, but you're like in virtual reality, and you can be Captain Jack Sparrow, and your homie from high school from back then, he can be I don't know, Godzilla, right? And you can all have a good time. Well, why would you want to do that? That's kind of weird. Well, considering how COVID lockdowns were a thing and people weren't allowed to go home, or not go home, but they weren't allowed to go out, how do you connect with your friends who might be in a different country? And you still want to interact with them on a 3-to-3 space. Because the best thing about virtual reality, and I've talked about this on another podcast, but the best thing about virtual reality is the fact that when you're in a 3D environment, you can't dance like you can on a screen, right? It's just a video. But since I'm dancing like this in VR, you can, it feels more real. There's a 3D environment, there's a 3D person busting out moves like this, right? And so it's one of those weird technologies where you just have to try it and then you'll understand. The whole idea of VR, augmented reality, XR, everything, you just really have to try it. But that's the best way I can put it.
That is a really good way to put it. There are other ways you could explain it, but I found it to be kind of difficult for someone who doesn't know what virtual reality is. So I do appreciate the insights you've given. So thank you. I do have a question. You mentioned a few things that had me thinking about a question I wanted to ask you, which is, when you started your journey in VR, into VR and VRchat, did you expect yourself to end up where you are now?
Ooh. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I knew I would always be creating videos and I would be some sort of content creator, because Twortles is not my very first YouTube project. In fact, I so much regret it. I regret deleting the videos of me like 12, 15, 16 years ago of me like playing Minecraft or something, being like, hey guys, welcome to another Twortles video. I built a dirt house, right? And just all of those fun memories.
Yeah.
And I've, again, being a professional photographer as kind of a side hobby, it just gets a little bit of beer money, right? And doing some videography, I've always just been into editing photos and videos. And so I always knew I would be doing something. Even if I wasn't going to be a content creator myself, I would want to work in the industry, whether as an editor or something else. So yes, I kind of knew where I would be, and I'm still kind of on that journey. But no, in the sense that I had no idea that I'd get to a position where I am right now, where I have lovely people like yourself, Raptor, as well as yourself, Lion Turtle, just asking me, hey, would you be down to do an interview? I've always been the one doing the interviewing, so I never thought I'd get to a position where people are genuinely interested in my takes and the things that I have to say, as well as an opportunity for myself to share my experiences outside of a regular video format, or I guess spaces, because I've been doing those too.
Oh.
So that's to answer your question. It's both yes and a no.
Okay. So I actually found you through your spaces, but what is Twitter Spaces and how did you get started there?
Oh. Let me try to think about how I want to answer this. Because I'm also involved in a lot of different industries that people don't like, as you probably can tell, based on my profile picture on Twitter.
Yeah. Something NFTs. Something
NFTs.
Pause.
Yo, whoa, that's weird. Who's into crypto and NFTs? What a weirdo, dude. But no, seriously, that is how I got into it. And a lot of those guys, they run spaces, and so they'll do like daily updates, like, hey, there's this project coming out. Hey, there's this stupid scam coin you shouldn't buy. Hey, there's just a giant group of us just sharing our takes. Oh, we've invited real professionals and financial people to come and share their knowledge with the community. And I looked at that and I thought, how come no one's doing that for VR? Right? There's some like self-help wellness groups that are doing that. There's some general AI stuff, like the AI guys are doing it. Like they're creating their own spaces, and I just went, dude, no one's doing it in virtual reality. That's so dumb. And so I started doing it.
Okay.
And my very first 2 spaces, I had about 3 people, and they were just like my homies, going like, "Yeah, Twortles, what are you doing? I guess this is cool." And then my 3rd space ever, and it's still my biggest space to date, but I peaked at about 550 people.
Holy shit.
And it was bananas. It was completely bananas. And I thought of a title that was kind of controversial and clickbaity, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that's only 3 people showed up yesterday. What's the worst that can happen? And then 500 people joined, and I went, yo, this could be something. And that kind of started my journey on doing it constantly. And I'm kind of getting back into the groove of setting a schedule and doing it more consistently. But then I was still figuring it out. I was doing YouTube, but I was struggling with that. And I had a lot of personal things going on. I was also trying to figure out the spaces thing. Do I need a co-host? Do I need this? And that's how I met a lot of my current community, and they really enjoy my spaces because they've told me, yeah, I'll listen to it while I'm at work, or I'll listen to this while I'm, just right before I'm getting ready to go to bed or something like that. So that's been really interesting. That was kind of the beginning of my spaces journey.
Okay. What kinds of things did you learn, and what kind of content do you do during Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, so what I do in Twitter Spaces, it's a little bit different from your traditional live streaming format, right? Your traditional live streaming format would be something almost akin to this interview that we're doing, where you could be streaming this, there's a chat that you can interact with, right? And maybe you're hosting an event. But with Spaces, it's almost like Clubhouse back in the day, but I've been trying to run it a little bit more like a radio show. So I've been trying to incorporate a little bit more background music, inviting a lot of really smart people. And honestly, I could not have run those Spaces without these really smart people, like InterVR, who's working on his PhD, or Medila-san, from the person who made the social VR lifestyle survey, or even Tupper. Right, Tupper came on one of my spaces to do an AMA, or Loon from VRchat, and all these wonderful, wonderful, smart people who are actually in the industry. Because it's so much more accessible and they don't have to put on a headset and do all this, they can just access it on their phone. I think that's what made people more receptive to joining these live Twitter spaces and getting to talk to somebody and share that with the world. So the type of content that I make is both open format discussions as well as some thoughts that I've had in relation to the virtual reality industry, as well as sometimes we'll do Ask Me Anythings, AMAs like we're doing right now with you and me, or just open format discussion where I'll have 6 or 7 or 8 of the usual people in the audience coming up and you're like, Twortles, you're a bozo. That's a bad take. And let me tell you why. And having that open discourse, because sometimes you can get lost in the sauce in text, but by having access to actually communicating to each other via voice, I think that's way more impactful, and you can explain your position and point better than you can just off of a Twitter thread, as an example.
Okay.
So that's kind of the content that I've been doing with Twitter Spaces.
Okay. Is there anything that you've learned or any content that you remember from your Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, of course. First, it's about learning a lot of the industry stuff. Learning about how this industry came to be. And I'll bring Tupper up as an example because he's head of VRchat community. I didn't know Tupper was arguably one of the first, 10, 20 people to play VRchat back in 2013 when it was still in beta. And also, he started off as support for VRchat, and now he's head of community, which I thought was pretty interesting, actually. Wow, you can start and work your way up and join a platform and community that you genuinely love and make something out of it. And that's what he did. And by talking to all of these people, that is exactly how a lot of these people got into their positions. Loon from VRchat, as an example. He was already doing the VR stuff, and then he got connected with the person who runs VRchat, and then they became friends, and then now he works for VRchat because they invited him. That's a really cool story. And so I think it's more so inspirational, knowing that, yeah, these people just never gave up on VR. And they were, of course, they were early, But more importantly than just being early, they networked, they got to meet people. And I think by you doing these interviews, it's putting yourself on the map because you can go and say, listen, I've talked to all of these people in VRchat. I might know a thing or two, and you're sharing all this knowledge with people, right? And so, again, I've learned some things and how these people have gotten to their current positions in the virtual reality industry, as well as just being inspired by all the people making cool stuff. It's always awesome to see your friends making cool stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. What kinds of people have you been inspired by during your time here, both Twitter Spaces as well as VRchat?
Well, like I mentioned, there was Tupper, there was Lun from VCat, there's, I met Surmer very briefly. I got to talk to him for a little bit. He was super cool. I did an AMA with Azil, and Azil, I think, was really interesting because he was one of the first earlier VRchat content creators that I used as a reference to create my own interview style videos. We both do similar content, but the way he approaches it is differently than the way I do. But I still do appreciate the work that he puts in to create amazing videos for the community to watch and just be deeply empathetic. He's a very deeply empathetic person, and I am not as empathetic as him. So therefore, I can't do the same things that he does. But he shared some of the things like why does he do this type of content, how he was able to transition to, I guess, full time, which was thanks to his Patreon community just supporting him, letting him do what he wants. I think he mentioned in my spaces, I think he met his girlfriend in VRchat, and I thought, whoa, like people find love in this game, which a lot of people do. Or long distance relationships, they use the headset, and that's how they connect with their partner and around a long distance. So, yeah, those are some of the things I've learned, and those are the types of people that inspire me. If they can do it, I can do it. Why can't I?
During your time, has there been anybody that helped you along your own journey?
Of course, there's a lot of people who have helped me along my journey. I would be insane to say that I did everything on my channel by myself, because that's false. There's my friends. I would never have gotten into VRchat without my friend Skippy, right? Like I joke and I say, this is your fault. But he also enjoys it. And it's funny because some of his IRL friends who get into VR, they go to him and go, hey man, I know you were into VR. I found this cool tiny channel called Twortles. Like, do you know this channel? And he goes, yeah, I made him. Right?
Yeah.
And you'll just joke like that, right? So there's friends like him. There's, the staff that I've like hired and worked with. And again, I try to fairly compensate people for the work that they do in VRchat, because as much as people do this out of the passion, out of their hearts, I'm trying to see if, let's see what my expenses are. And this is more of a business thing that I've been thinking about in the background, but what are my monthly expenses? How can I bring in money, like sponsorships or working with people or taking on ad deals, or how much revenue am I making? Can I get to a point where I'm not bleeding money every single month and I can fairly pay all of my friends who are helping me create this channel? So like my friend MojoPeg, who's I met through a mutual friend, he's been super awesome at helping me make and film all these videos as well as giving his input. And I definitely don't pay him as much as I really want to. But if I try to, I would be bleeding way more money than I normally am. Way more money, right? So Mojo's really helped me a lot. Enemy Eliminated, he's created some amazing videos with Metacosm, like what if mirrors in VRchat. What if there were no mirrors in VRchat, I think was one of his viral videos. Or the VRchat talent shows. He's really cool director. So he's helped me with editing as well as filming as well. My entire community, right? All of my friends in VRchat who tell me cool VR ideas. Like I have a friend of ours, Como, little skeleton guy, running joke. But honestly, as much as we give shit to each other, he's told me about some really cool stuff in VR, such as the VRchat Mighty Gym. He was one of the early guys that found it and said, yo, dude, check this place out, right? And and just I'm looking at my Discord right now, but just so many people. The people who stop by my spaces and actually say something and share their lessons and experiences. So I'm going on and on and on in this tangent, but these are the people that have helped form the Twortles VR journey. Because if there were no people on your journey, is it really a journey? I guess you could say that, but there'd be no people to talk about your experiences to or with.
Wow, you do have a very good point. What's a journey in VRchat, a social platform, without the people themselves? It'd be the antithesis of the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think it'd be kind of crazy to say that you can do all of this by yourself. And I won't lie, there was a part of me very early on in my content creation journey where I thought, yeah, I could do this by myself. I don't need anyone else. But, and of course I would also think to myself, well, yeah, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to edit and film and record this video by myself. I'm going to do all of this by myself. But then it's so ironic because I go around VRchat, the great pug in my early journey, interviewing people. And if they weren't available to interview, how would I create content to even put out on YouTube? So the entire thing and that entire mindset was ironic to begin with. So yeah, I think with any professional, not just in content creation or YouTube, you need people. Now, it depends on the type of people that you work with, but you do need people to help you out.
You do have a point. So you've mentioned a few times you're thinking about using your platform as a business. Is VRchat an easy place to run a business or about VRchat?
Am I allowed to swear here?
Go ahead. We don't give a shit.
You don't give a flying fuck. Go right ahead there. Nobody else gives two.
Is VRchat an easy platform to make money on? Fuck no. Fuck no. Hell no. And I talk about it all the time on my spaces. In fact, I want to argue and say I'm one of the voices that gives VRchat the most shit when it comes to monetization, because that's all I bring up on my spaces. That's all I talk about. I'm like, guys, you can't make money in VR. You can't run a business here. It's so difficult, right? There's only a couple of people who I think have made it somewhat successful, right? So, like Thrill Seeker from Thrill Seeker, right? But he doesn't just do VRchat content. He's doing overall VR news. So for him, it makes sense. Thea from the virtual reality show, she has her Patreon community, but she also delivers a lot of value by running events, collaborating with other streamers and content creators, by doing interviews on her show and having a live, almost like the Tonight Show format where she has the booth and the chairs and the audience like who gets to watch her perform and do this type of stuff live. Both of them also collaborate with a lot of VR raves too. So they've made it work. And then in the community side of things, I think one of the only communities that I think have made it full time, and again, I've never really gotten to talk to them or go to their events, but this is just what I know. I think the owner of New Eden, I believe, is able to make a full-time living. But they do an amazing job doing their cabaret shows, showcasing their new avatars for sale through their performances, which I think is a really unique business idea because no one's really doing that. They're just doing avatar showcases and throwing it up on Twitter, right? What's interesting is VRchat using the VRchat coins. We jokingly say V-Bucks, right? I think that's a very interesting first step, but that's for creators. That's not for VR business. I think for me, the real money is bringing in corporations and sponsors. I mean, you're bringing them into your own turf, but the big question to ask, which honestly I've been trying to figure out, is what is a good enough value proposition for these companies to drop, let's say, $100,000 into building a VR world or avatars for their customers or even internal use? Is there even a real business proposition for that? And so that's one of the big questions that I think if anyone wants to create a VR business, like a business, that's something you have to ask. Otherwise, if you're an avatar creator or a world creator, you could get by doing commissions. You could get by selling the same avatar model like 100 times. I know a couple of avatar creators who make full-time livings. All they do is create a seasonal avatar. They have a giant Discord community. They release it. They love it. It's a fair exchange because one party is happy and the other party is happy. So they buy the avatar and then they get to rock it in VRchat and everyone's happy. And they are able to make a full-time living off of that. So I think it's different when you ask, is it easy to run a VR business? No. Is it easy to make a living in VRchat? The answer is also no, but it's a little bit easier than making a full-fledged business because you could do things independently as a freelancer or contractor.
What needs to change for it to be possible to run a business or make a living here in VR?
Ooh, Do you want me to answer that in more of the business side of things or as an independent freelancer or contractor?
Yes. Just yes.
Okay. I guess I'll start with the freelancer stuff because I think that's the most relevant for your audience because not a lot of them are planning to make VR businesses. And I'm sure a lot of avatar and world creators watch your podcast, right? So I'm just going to let you know, I'm not making any money on VRchat. I'm actually losing money every single month. I'm not at the point where I can say that I'm making a full-time living off of VRchat. I still work a corporate 9-to-5 job. I am in a position where I pay a cheap amount of rent. Let's just say that, right? And I'm blessed to have the opportunity to invest into virtual reality because I just really like the medium and the format. So take my words with a grain of salt. But based off of what I have seen with avatar and world creators, there are some world creators. I have a video called "How to Make Money in VRchat," or how to make a full-time living in VRchat, something like that. And I interviewed 3 types of people: avatar world creators, they were kind of bunched in as one. NSFW creators, because honestly, surprisingly, it's a very lucrative industry. And third, I interviewed Fia from the virtual reality show about the content creation side of things, right? So those are 3 possible paths as freelancers. Not everyone has to be an avatar world creator, not everyone has to be an NSFW creator, and not everyone has to be a content creator. But from what I've seen, those are the 3, I guess, popular routes to make a living as a freelancer in the virtual reality space. So that's the freelance independent side of things on how you can make money on this platform. There are probably a lot of other ways. You could probably make some beer money DJing at a couple events, and if they pay the DJs, or being a photographer. But to be honest, a lot of people who do that are doing it for free anyway, so you're competing against the losing market, in my opinion. So that's the independent side. The business side is, again, I think it makes more sense for content creators like myself to go into this field because, one, we are building and curating an audience of people. You, the viewer, you are important in this entire equation. Because without you guys, your favorite content creator, we would have no audience to sell product to. And not even just sell product. I'm not trying to shill you anything. But I just mean that if I wanted to promote something, hey guys, do you see this logo in the background? This is the shell by Twortles, right? Like, I would not be able to promote this world, which is relevant to your audience, if you did not put in the work to curate a virtual reality audience, or even to people who listen to me. Hey, check out Lion Turtle 21 and Dirty Raptor. They're both people who are making cool VR content, right? That message in itself is very, very valuable to corporations who want access to your audience. VR companies, as an example. Like Thrillseeker, he's working on a VR game. Imagine if he was just a regular tech guy. I don't think he would have enough pull to promote his VR game to an audience that is actually interested in VR, right? So there's that as an example. So those are just some ideas on the business side of things. I think taking on sponsorships from corporations is a thing, but here's an interesting thought. Can you make money as a business from can you make money as a business not just on VRchat, but in the virtual reality industry? And if so, how can you do that without taking sponsorships from corporations? Because you need either a winning product or a service. And again, going back to the freelancer route, the service for them is I'm providing you a service of creating a custom avatar, creating a custom world, so on and so forth. So those are just kind of the questions and things to keep in mind for, I guess, making money as an independent or as a business in the virtual reality industry. But just for this podcast, in the context of VRchat.
So with VR platforms, as like the one thing I'd say the initial question is what needs to change? We need people here in virtual reality to change. Because
Yes.
all due respect to all you wonderful VRchat people, whether you're staff or players, VRchat isn't that big. Like in terms of like the grand scheme of platforms, it's not. It's like what 20 to 40,000 regularly, which Roblox has more people. Roblox, the fuck.
So that's actually interesting. You bring up that statistic because that's the same statistic I brought up, and Lun from VCAT actually explained what that metric actually meant. So it's 20 to 50,000 concurrent players, so CCU. So hopefully I don't butcher this, but I think I have a short or snippet of it on my Twitter somewhere. But essentially the metric of CCU means players at any given time. That's 50,000 people at any given time on VRchat, which possibly means that throughout the course of a day, that could be 150,000 unique people cycling in and out of VRchat.
Okay.
Or even 200,000 different unique people, right? You just don't know. VRchat has 50,000 concurrent players. Now, what's interesting is that on New Year's, this couple weeks ago, VRchat had actually broken 100,000 concurrent players. So that meant throughout that entire day during New Year's and maybe Christmas season, that could potentially be around 300,000 to 400,000 unique people going in and out of VRchat at any given moment.
Wow.
Now, I'm saying this and you go, whoa, 100,000, that's a big number. Okay, you think that's a big number, but Gorilla Tag has 750,000 people CCU at any given time. So just take that as you will.
You do have a really good point on that. What do you think VRchat needs? Well, VRchat as a platform needs to do in order to bring in more people. Like what do you think will bring more people in as you as like a content creator and person who's talked with various people in the industry?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think VRchat, I mean, I hate on them, but I also love them. I think they are doing the right thing by bringing it to mobile. I've tested out the Android app. I think it's pretty good for what it is. So VRchat mobile, I think, is a good move. Quest 2, Quest 3, that's going to be a good move too. Maybe there could be something for the Apple Vision Pro. I'm just not sure. But that could be a possibility. Imagine augmented reality VRchat. That'd be an interesting concept.
That's already being done.
I think they are. Yeah, I think that's all that they can really do as a company when it comes as a technology. I think where we fall short, and I'm including myself in the picture, is the type of content that's being put out in VRchat, right? So I think there's two macro factors here. The first macro factor is, one, I mean, kids are just growing up with VR. Just like how a lot of us have grown up with the internet, sure, 400,000 old school RuneScape when you were younger, and now you're playing VRchat, or IMVU, or Gaia Online, or MapleStore, or World of Warcraft, or all these massively multiplayer games. A lot of that demographic has, in essence, shifted to, I guess, the older demographic of VRchat, because it's still massively multiplayer, right? So I think it's just going to take time. I don't know, 5-10 years before you start seeing any super crazy growth in VRchat as a platform, because kids are getting gifted Quest 2s, but eventually they're going to get older and have their own disposable income. And headsets are just going to get better. They're just gonna become more accessible. Imagine headsets that are just the size of contact lenses, or you just plug it in like Sword Art Online. That would be crazy, right? So that's the first macro factor. The second macro factor, which I was just about to get to, was about content creators like myself. And I'm including myself in this picture because I honestly think, well, I don't think I'm in the right position to say this because I'm not huge by any metric. I don't have 100,000 subscribers or 500,000 or something like that. But I think the type of content that people are putting out about VRchat can give people the wrong impression about the platform. Because if you show people that the only thing to do in VRchat is to go to the black cat and scream at people, then that's all people are going to know about the game. But if you go around doing really insightful interviews like you are and sharing that with the public and they go, wow, this is actually a really cool platform, that I think leaves a more positive mark on the industry. And that's kind of been one of my goals. And to be honest, I've also been in the camp of making, I guess, not so tasteful content, clickbaity content. Some of my titles are definitely clickbait, right? And I've definitely been there. And to a certain degree, I think I'm still there. Of course, I'm going to continue to make somewhat interesting titles and thumbnails to try to bring in the most audience. But I'm going to let you know, my most popular video is called Inside the Underground Performers of the Metaverse or something like that. And it's a whole documentary about the exotic dancing community in VRchat. And the title and the thumbnail is so clickbait, dude. And it's a 10-minute documentary, and it's a genuinely, what I think is a good documentary of me going around asking people, why do you do this in VRchat? Oh, these are people who are exercising. They lost 40 pounds dancing and doing exotic dancing in VRchat. A lot of them are men. I purposely only showcased men dancing, or mostly men dancing, right? Because it's like, yeah, there's male dancers. It's not just ladies or dudes pretending to be ladies dancing in VR, right? It's not so clickbaity. The retention rate on that video is 1%. Like, it spikes and it just, it's 1 to 2%. So I don't know. Maybe people don't always want, or the current demographic doesn't want, highly informative, positive videos about VRchat. Or here's another interesting thought. Maybe that's just all they've been trained to consume and get used to. So I'll leave that as is.
Well, coming from my opinion, with the VRchat culture and community as a whole, it does seem this last year it started growing up, one would say. Because I'll use an example. When I first came in, all you saw was meme avatars. The kind of content you would see on VRchat was very meme, joke, and fun. Let's go around troll people. And it does seem this year that there seems to be a huge shift in people wanting to be jokey to wanting to create things. For an example, I've seen a huge shift in people wanting to make avatars, want to make worlds, want to make communities. I've seen a lot of people want to, even podcasts for VRchat springing up this year all over the place. And I think it's fantastic. And it does seem this year, well, 2023, not this year, but this last year, it does seem that the community is starting to grow up a little. So maybe that may change. But that's just my viewpoint on it. So maybe.
Yeah, I think that shift was already slowly starting to happen even last year. And that's kind of the reason why I think creating the content that I was creating now, that's why I started to do it, because I also have the same thoughts. Yeah, there's not a lot of people, or maybe I just don't spend a lot of time in public worlds anymore, but not as many people joking around. I mean, you guys still have the kids and the screechers, but mostly in a lot of the more established communities, like the furry communities or the rave scene or the exotic dancing scenes or the content creation clubs or the photography like all these places, they're starting to take it a little bit more seriously and go, yeah, this can be a very deeply artistic form of expression. And I think you're really starting to see that even within the filmmaking community too. There's Ariel Emerald is a videographer, as well as Kangaloo. I think Kangaloo works with Metacosm as well, but they both put out films that were featured in Sundance, and Sundance is a real film festival. and they created a virtual reality section because it was getting more popular as a medium.
Mm.
So I think not just in VR chat they're growing up, but a lot of people, and I also think that Meta and Apple have something to do with the promotion of it, because they basically dumped billions of dollars into marketing and making the technology normalized.
Mm.
More people are just going to go, yeah, I mean, it's VR. That's cool, I guess. Just like how people, when we first got the iPhone released in 2007, now everyone is glued to their phones. Now everyone has a smartphone. Even, listen, I live in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, where it's basically tech capital, and I see homeless people with smartphones. It's just a part of life. That's just what they need. It's a necessity at this point. And maybe we'll get to a point where VR headsets are just a necessity. Maybe you start taking your work meetings at home. That's what Meta wanted to do. So, yeah, those are just some of the thoughts that I had.
Well, I'm very glad that VRchat started to grow up a little bit, because I want to see this platform thrive. Because, for example, this year, 2023, when I say this year, I'm sorry, I have learned a lot more about the kind of people who use VRchat as a sandbox, for an example. People make worlds, people who, for example, the rave community. I've learned this last 6 months that there are people from the real life industry, like laser tech technicians, coming into VRchat and then taking their knowledge
Absolutely.
and applying it in here with programs that now you can control virtual lights with the same program festivals run with. And I've learned that. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah. And I think a lot of those people coming here may also help raise the community to be something a little more than just Ugandan knuckles.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this one Twitter clip of somebody who was they had somehow figured out a way to map real-time lights in the event that was running live in real life and have the same exact lasers and light show in VR chat. And I thought, whoa, that is some next level tech. So you're telling me if I'm raving in VR, I'm getting the same exact lasers and lighting system as the people who are raving there in real life. And that's what it is.
Indeed. Wow. Well, it's been an absolutely fantastic time talking with you, Twortles. Thank you so very much for having this chat. Where can people find you and your content if they wish to reach out?
Of course. Well, thank you for having me on, Lion Turtle. Dirty Raptor too. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate you guys coming to my studio, first of all. So first thing I'll promote is my studio. You can check out this world. It's called The Shell. It's a fully working filmmaking studio in VRchat, which I think is super awesome. Built by our friend Mahne VR, Mahne. She is so wonderful, super talented world creator, and that's this world. So if you're a videographer, you just want a chill place to hang out, The Shell is where it's at. But other than that, you can find me on YouTube. That's youtube.com/c/Twortles, Twortles. You can see that on my sweater. I don't know if you can get that.
You can see it.
Twortles. And yeah, I'm also on Twitter. I'm running Spaces. It's almost like a radio show format. So you can find me there, Twortles VR. And I'm usually hosting spaces there for people to listen to. I invite people for AMAs, as I mentioned earlier. And that's all I got to plug. YouTube and Twitter. Oh, I guess my Discord community too, but you can join that if you want. You can do your thing.
Well, again, thank you very much for your time. You seem like a very busy man, and your time is appreciated. So thank you for coming to speak with us yourself. Without people such as you, we wouldn't have content ourselves. So thank you. And everything he's mentioned will be in the Hoobly.
Appreciate you guys.
Down that way. Raptor, you know the thing.
Always here, no matter what. Might be the quiet one, but you learn a lot, folks. No matter who they are or what we do in VR, there's always one thing to remember. Let the dog out. Son of a bitch. Let the dog. If not, it's a human. You can let them out too. Take care, folks. We'll talk to you later. Bye.